Welcome everybody to week one of Dominaria United League. We're doing our feature matches. We're here with Caleb and Chris York. I think they're just loading up their match, so should be starting any moment. But we can take a moment to discuss sort of what we're going to see tonight in week one. So Justin's with me. What kind of decks are we going to be seeing this week? Not fine
Uh,
tuned ones yet. Right.
I think people are gonna try and go for some straight like 4 or 5 color nonsense right off the bat. Just try and embrace what the domain deck of Dominaria. Or
Yeah.
besides that, we might just see like a straight like 2 or 3 color, a more aggressive deck coming out.
Yeah, and this league has been interesting because just there's a good variety of sets in standard. Often there was a most correct set, or there were just sets that nobody wanted to ever really touch because they just weren't strong enough. And here we've seen all the sets open. So Midnight Hunt, Crimson Vow, Kamigawa, Streets of New Capenna, and this base set. So Caleb's looking, he has some blue, black, and green cards in his hand. No green mana yet, though. I know Chris York has a couple of spicy cards he opened from sets outside of Dominaria, which may or may not show up in this match. But what's he got in his hand to start with?
He has a couple removal spells with Flowstone Infusion and Wolf Strike, and he has one late creature in Linebreaker Ballast, and the rest are lands.
Yeah, the headline here I think is that this Beast Caller might run away with the game if Caleb doesn't find something. Caleb just has a bunch of creatures in his hand, and this Beast Caller can get quite large. Like it's a plus one counter whenever you cast a creature. So
Well,
as we see Caleb's hand, he has three green cards which he can't cast, and he has a Talus Lookout. He has the Raven Man, and he does have Cruelty of Gix, which is a very strong card, but he does not have a fourth land of any color. So he's gonna need to draw correctly and do it quick.
Chris York has just drawn a Moonrager Slash, which he is posturing to use.
Yeah, so that's the two in a red. Yeah, it's a lightning bolt that costs three, and I don't think we'll be seeing much nighttime in Dominaria United League. Once in a while, you might see a wolf that switches, but for the most part, that's just going to be three mana. So Caleb has drawn his not only his fourth land, but it's untapped and it's green. So this basically means he gets to play a proper game of Magic now, casting his 4/4 for 4. He has a Niall in hand. He has a Vine Shaper Prodigy, Talus Lookout, all of which are castable now with that one forest. All right.
It seems that if Caleb, with all that high toughness creatures, will not seem very easy to take down after Chris York uses his Wolf Strike at
Yeah.
some point in time.
Yeah. So Caleb now has drawn the exact correct land once again for turn, which is a swamp. Making him able to cast his Cruelty of Gix. So he's going to go get whatever he needs to make sure he doesn't get run over by this Baloth or potentially the Beast Caller. But we do see Chris York's hand that he doesn't have creatures. He has two interactive spells, which just might mean that he might just bust through for damage and get him very, very low here because he can attack for 7 right here. And then, Caleb's probably going to have to play a 2/4 because all of his other creatures get killed by a Flowstone Infusion.
Notably, Chris York did draw a creature, so he
Okay.
could have played the creature and enlisted the Baloth, potentially just either force a chump block or take 8,
Yeah, so
and
looking
could
through
have saved the
yes.
removal spell for later
So
if he so chose.
looking through Caleb's deck, he's got a classic Sultai deck. I saw 2 copies of Tribute to Urborg, 2 copies of Tatiova in his deck. So he's got a lot of nice little uncommons here. Seems to be just straight 3 colors. It doesn't seem to be a splash or anything for now. 2 bite downs. He's just going through his deck to see what he wants to grab here to deal with the board. So
Sultai,
he's considering
known to be
just
one of
taking it
Caleb's
here.
preferred archetypes
Yeah,
in
well,
Magic generally.
he is a flexible player, but he does like those Sultai value piles that just say, I'm going to draw more cards than you. I'll one for one you, and then whatever's left over, I'll have something better left over than you at the end, and I'll have 2 or 3 more cards in hand. But that plan might not work since he's under siege here. He was considering even just getting a land so he could play 2 creatures, but we'll see what he lands on here. He's taking his
No,
time.
notably, Caleb will be going down 2/6 after he gets a card.
Yeah, and he needs to present something that can block the Linebreaker Bailout because that represents a lethal attacker next turn. So he has gone for just a regular old forest, so he can cast two creatures. So he's going to play Rona, which was his draw for a turn, which is his biggest creature that he has access to in his hand, and he's going to play a 2/2 here. So he basically has to chump block that Baloth if it enlists, which it would be likely to. So
Ishark is going to Floatstone Infusion, this 2/2, forcing the chump block, and
yeah,
also most likely getting in 4 damage.
yeah. So unless he's splashing, unless Chris York is splashing something, it looks like he's gone down to two colors already, is which is difficult to do in these early days, but with the right packs and enough good playables, you can do that. So it looks like he's not going to enlist. He's just going to put two big attackers. And if Caleb had a board wipe, he would have gone to go get it with his cruelty of kicks. So
Yeah, I like the play from Chris York.
looks like
Just
he won't.
solid
Yeah,
deck showing here, just showing off some creatures and some pretty efficient removal.
yeah. Looks like he can only play two more creatures this turn. Caleb can, so I'm not sure if he's just posturing to make York think he has something, but he can play two more creatures, and then every creature's lethal. So we'll be moving on to the next game shortly.
We saw in this match that Chris is playing one of the archetypes I did not mention and what we'd think we'd see in week 1. He just
Yeah.
went for a solid, just green red creatures deck.
So traditionally, he likes to go through standard one set at a time and then cycle back eventually. So I believe he's opened up three different sets so far. So we've seen Midnight Hunt. I know he opened a pack of I believe Kamigawa. So we might be seeing some offbeat cards we don't usually see. Caleb has just opened Dominaria, so he's 2/2, and Chris York is 1-3. So neither of them have gotten off to blazing starts here in the league, but they're looking to end their week on a high note here. So Caleb's looking at Bone Splinters potentially to bring in. Anything York is considering?
Chris York saw his sideboard and realized that there was no card that was particularly better than a card in his main deck, so he's just sent it back the way it is.
Yeah, so Caleb's considering bringing in some of his larger green creatures that he does not have in his main deck. That would be two Yavimaya Sojourners, the 4/6 with the domain reduction, and then the Territorial Marrow. So I'm not sure why he wouldn't want to main deck those cards. He is just playing a bunch of off-color duels to get domain for other cards. So those cards seem pretty good. Just to have in your main deck, I think, to have access to. Just have big creatures is good, I think. Uh, so it looks like he's
Have
figured
a
out what to
surplus
play.
of big creatures in the main deck already.
No, not really. He has after 4 mana, he has a Defiler of Dreams and a Mossbeard Ancient. That's it for creatures above 4 mana, and he has one copy of the 4/4 for 4 Reach. So his creatures are not large, but he's gone for the Territorial Marrow and the Bone Splinters, and chose decided against getting bringing in the 4/6s. But I mean, if you're Sultai, you just want big creatures to end the game with. I think maybe he figures his bombs are good enough that he can rely on those.
And maybe just wants some more early game to survive to his bombs.
Yeah, because he does have the Cruelty of Gix, the Defiler of Dreams. He does have two Tatiovas that can close out a game quite quickly. Bunch of good one-for-one removal. So Caleb's kept a hand where he can cast his Phyrexian Rager, but then he's going to need some more lands and green again. So let's see if he can draw green on time again, like he did last game.
Chris York kept a 6-land hand with a Shadow Beast sighting.
Shadow Beast sighting, that's a good one from Midnight Hunt. So there's a blue-red tap land. I'm assuming it's for domain, or maybe he had maybe a kicker splash or something of that nature.
I believe so, because I did not see a blue card per
Yeah,
se in the main deck.
yeah. Well, we at least saw the brawler last game,
Yeah,
the star 3 for domain. Yeah, so he's drawn a untapped land to play his Talus Lookout. However, now he has a white-blue tap land and 4 green cards in hand, so he's under the gun to find that green, well, just like last game, and he has not found it. So he's drawn a white-red tap land to go along with his white-blue tap land, and like I said, the rest are green cards. So he's holding tight here, hoping that Chris York does not run away with the game in these interim turns where he can't cast very much.
Well, Chris York has just drawn one of the spicier includes to his deck, the Fable of the Mirror Breaker from Kamigawa.
Yes, Fable of the Mirror Breaker. That's quite a powerful one. Uh, that one is going to be hard to deal with here. I don't think these 3/2 flyers are gonna be able to produce a fast enough clock. Uh, we'll see though.
Chris York is also happens to be holding up a Lightning Strike as he's casting it now.
Yeah, he's just firing off these removals. Like even though they're 2-for-1s in Caleb's favor, the Lookout and the Rager both draw a card. So Caleb has found his forest now, so he can deploy his 4/4 for 4, and then eventually his Mossbeard Ancient when he finds the another forest. So Chris York dumping some mountains there. What else has he got in hand?
He drew two lands off the discard two.
Well,
So, and then he also drew Season of Renewal for his turn. So if anything should go south, he still has a way to catch back up.
Season of Renewal. Yeah, another fun one back from Kamigawa. That was one of the cornerstones of those green value decks.
Yeah, I don't know how good it'll be in the Dominaria set, although as there is a significant less
Yeah.
amount of
So
enchantments.
yeah,
But on this board, it's fine.
Caleb found a 10/10 for 5, which is pretty good. He found that from his Lookout dying. So now Chris York, we'll see if he can get around this 10/10. He might just have to go wide here. So as of next turn, the Mirror Breaker can make copies of things, uh, but it does force you to discard a card.
As it stands on board, Chris York can't just do 10 damage if he were to make a copy of a 4/4 token and attack it with everything.
Yeah, and Caleb, though slowly, will be deploying his hand since he does have this Gardener here to now allow him to have 2 green mana at his disposal starting next turn. Caleb's pausing here, wondering if he wants to. He does have a Bone Splinters here, but I think he would not want to put his Death Touch. He would not want to sacrifice that.
It depends on how much he thinks the reflection of Kiki Jiki will be doing here. Who knows if like Chris York has a monster in his hand they could just straight up make a copy of right away.
Yeah, again, there's not much that a green red deck has that a 10/10 can't handle. Um, unless it's like a dragon or flying, right? So green red traditionally is not going to have a lot of flying creatures in their deck. So this 10/10 might be able to just hold off just about anything. So Caleb's passing here. He does not have any other plays except for Bone Splinters. The rest of his hand is all green cards, which, like I said, he will not be able to have untap with 2 green mana to either cast a Mossbeard Ancient or cast 2 green cards.
Chris York has unfortunately drawn another land.
So looks like we're going to be in a bit of a board stall here, with Caleb having the upper hand with just much more to do. Yeah.
It was looking quite good for Chris York, but now it's starting to lose his window a bit.
Yeah, once he lands the 7/7, I mean, probably next turn he can start attacking with the 10/10.
Oh yeah, that's such a huge creature. It also gains life. It makes it like any like attack pressure is effectively gone.
Yeah, so now that he's got his 7/7, he doesn't care about the second green mana anymore. He's just gonna get rid of that Mirror Breaker right away before it does some more damage to him. Yeah, I mean, making a 2/4 is fine. It's gonna go away at the end of turn.
On the bright side, the season renewal can't get the Fable back.
Yeah, there's no creature in there though, right?
There is no creature.
Yeah, so his season of renewal is not getting back 2 things just yet, and he does have to start all over again from
So
chapter
Chris
one.
York has just drawn a reason to show why has this light blue splash. He has drawn a Fires of Victory,
Okay,
which is the kicker for 2 and a blue. You draw a card, and it's 1 a red to deal damage to a. Is it a target or a
it's
creature?
a creature or planeswalker. So Caleb's just going to attack with both here. Not he's not really afraid of anything. Obviously, Chris did not have a creature in hand there. So let's see what Chris decides to do.
Chris York just opting to triple block this 10/10, hopefully not to get blown out.
Yeah, there's a bite down in hand here. So if Caleb wishes, he can do that, or he can just. I think he's going to let this happen. Uh,
I think you're pretty content trading off 2/4/4s for a 10/10,
yeah,
especially in this spot.
so now he could play a Soul Tender, and he can also play a 4/4 reach, which might end up being targeted by the Fires of Victory. I could see Chris spending 5 mana to draw a card and kill that 4/4 right now. Nope.
He has opted against it
Okay.
and is quite fortunate. He has drawn a Burn Down the House.
Okay. So burn down the house. If he does have 7 mana there, so I suppose he can hit everything. He has 8 mana, including the Rejuvenator. So between that, the burn down the house, and the Fires of Victory, uh, he can get everything here if he chooses.
Fortunately, he doesn't have like the nice 10 mana here to be able to kick the Fires of Victory to draw a card off of it.
Yeah, I would have thought he just would fire it off on that 4/4 at end of turn just to find something to do. I mean, 5 mana 4/4 or 5 mana deal 4 damage, draw a card. You know, isn't that prophetic bolt?
Almost.
Yeah.
It Fires of Victory is just more reminiscent of the Cons of Terracure card, Master the Way.
Yes, that was also doing pretty much the same thing. All right, so looks like he is gonna go ahead and deal 4 damage to that, and then follow it up with this very cool rare. So we've now seen both of his kind of his really cool rares that he opened from various standard packs. So uh, that's also an advantage of opening different packs, is just you can surprise people with these rares that they'll never expect. Uh, even some uncommons that just you know you wouldn't see normally and wouldn't be expecting.
So the game transitions to the later phase, which is going to be about value at this point.
Yeah, so Caleb drew an Essence Scatter, so he's gonna stop any creature he sees as threatening. And he has a bite down as well, which not doing anything yet, but he also has a Soul Tender activation. So so here's the Season of Renewal. I don't
Fable
think
is going to be amazing here.
I don't
Chris York still has 2 lands to throw away.
yeah, I don't think Caleb's too concerned. He does have a bite down to kill the Mirror Breaker once it flips to a creature. But it might mean his Essence Scatter is going to waste this turn, in which case he can use the Soul Tender. Yeah, so here comes the Fable once again.
Just the value that you get from the second chapter, being able to discard those excess lands, probably find more things to do.
Yeah, so here comes the Soul Tender, getting back. Just, I assume it's the 10/10. Yeah, makes sense. That one. Oh, he's drawn a Tatiova now. So once he draws, no, he actually doesn't have the second green still. So Tatiova is an uncastable at this time.
Chris York notably has a Moonrager slash in his hand to deal with the Tatiova should he choose to not use it.
Okay. Yeah, again, Tatiova's not coming out until another green mana shows up for Caleb. This Fable Mirrorbreaker is just letting him rifle through his deck. So if Caleb's trying to be the card advantage deck, uh, yeah, Chris York is. I mean, he's discarding cards with their lands, so he's basically drawing cards, or he's seeing more cards. So what's this turn look like for Chris?
He is playing a card from a different set now, Midnight Vow.
Yeah,
He,
Crimson Vow, this rural recruit.
yeah, the
Yeah, not that one didn't end up being great in that format, but the card reads completely fine. A three
I,
one that it's a 1/1 that makes a 3/1, right?
I think it was just more about the just the format placement. Training just didn't seem that good in the format.
Yeah, yeah, that format was had a lot of power stuff going on, blood tokens and disturb, and training just wasn't impactful. So Caleb here looks like he's going to attack for 10, which is a significant amount. He has a follow up of the Raven Man, so uh, not an extraordinarily powerful rare. It can do some stuff in the late game, but 4 mana sorcery tap to make opponent discard a card and make a bird. Uh, that doesn't, considering what the kind of things we get at rare nowadays, that card seems a little below what we expect to see from a rare, honestly. So Mirror Breaker's back.
You're currently seeing one of the issues with red green. The late game doesn't seem that secure when your opponent has a bigger creature than you.
Yeah, this Moonrager Slash, I guess it's fine. He doesn't want him to make birds. Here's a 5/5, but that doesn't tangle favorably with a 10/10, as we can see.
Yeah.
So, Berserk's going to have to throw away a real creature here, or just, take the 10 and regroup from there. Right? So Caleb considering just biting down this 5/5, which now opens up an attack with his 3/3. Or biting down the Mirror Breaker, rather. Yeah.
Mirror Breaker just allows infinite chump blocks.
So he's now drawn a forest, which he's going to play for turn, and then he'll probably hold Tatiova until the next land he sees. Or no, he's just going to play it out. Okay.
With the opponent at 6, I believe just putting out an extra creature is fine.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Chris York has drawn yet another
I
rare.
know sometimes you hold Tatiova until you have the land to play immediately. Kind of like in the old Dominaria as well. It was a similar play pattern
Yes.
of you hold the Tatiova until you have a land to play immediately with it, because both of them give you extreme value here. And here's another rare, but I figure it's just going to make a 4/4 dragon here. Yeah, so 4/4 for 4 flying is good, but so
Well,
he
at least now he has enough power to triple block the Morrow.
yeah.
Though that
The
does
problem
mean
the
he
problem
dies
is
if
that
people hit.
Caleb has drawn a land as well, which means he has an extra attacker here. But Chris does have a card in hand, so Caleb
It
might,
is Broken Wings.
which is that's a good one. That'll kill the land. So Caleb's considering his options here. He could just attack with the 10/10. We'll see how he goes about this turn.
This is quite a good game of Magic.
Yeah, I will say Caleb's deck is kind of emblematic of sort of these week 1 decks. Like, you just pray that you hit all your colors. Like, he was on the verge of disaster both of these games without his green for a very long time. Well, this game he was without it for a long time, and in the game before he drew it exactly on time. So Chris York has a bit more of a focused deck here at 2-color deck. He won't have color issues. Post combat, make a 3/3. And now Chris York absolutely has to have something.
This is why the Tatiova is so good in this set. It makes it so any draw is effectively just good. A land just becomes a 3/3 creature, and any other non-land is just a spell you can cast.
Yeah, I read the card during the preview season, or just as the set was coming out, and I looked at it and I said, "That looks slow. It's a hard to cast 3/3 that only does something once you have 7 lands." But with the way the format is textured, it's very good. In other sets, it might not be good enough. Uh, so looks like he's killing off this 2/4 here and have 6 damage in play.
Fortunately, for Chris York, he only has a Flowstone Infusion, which is just barely
Yeah,
not enough to kill any of these 3 toughness creatures.
yeah. That was sort of, I think, how Caleb sort of drew it up, right? Just have the biggest creatures, have the last creature standing after all the removal and all the tricks have been played. So of note, Chris York, he played his board wipe, he played his mirror breaker, but Yeah, Caleb sort of plowed through it with just having a 10-10 and a 7-7 for a period of time, and
Just
then getting back the 10-10.
yeah, as I stated earlier, he got a bit flooded in the mid game and wasn't allowed to keep pushing on the gas.
Yeah, green red has limited ways to kill a 10-10. Normally, you probably need a death touch creature and like a bite down type effect. That's your most likely way to kill a 10-10 outside of combat. So Caleb's looking. He's now seen some more hits here from Chris York's deck. That does not make him want to board in anything though, so he's just going to send it back. And we're setting up for what should be a good game three. That game was
Yeah.
very back and forth, and it was on the verge of going either way for most of the game there.
So Chris York's opening hand of 7 is a Forest Mountain, a few removal spells in Moonrager Slash, Fire's Victory, Flowstone Infusion, and Broken Wings,
Any
and a
creatures?
Myriad's Outrider.
So one creature. So he's just
A,
gonna. So he yeah
he,
he's
he
mulligan
shipped it back.
because he yeah just just a bunch of removals and a 5 drop. I think Caleb would be very happy if Chris York kept that hand against him. So
Okay.
mulligan seems right there.
So Chris York has ex- decided to keep the hand of 6 with the Shivan Reef and 3 Forests and 2 2-drops.
Okay, so we'll be
Has
able to
drawn
play
a
some
Mountain
stuff.
per turn.
Okay. So Caleb's got his colors here, his main colors. He's going to start off, looks like with a 2-1 flying, the Battling Mystic. So in his hand, he has a Pixie Illusionist, which can fix for domain. The Timely Interference, Tribute to Urborg, and a Talus Lookout, of which he has 3 or 4 copies. So that's why we keep seeing those.
What
So
do you think of Enlist as the mechanic of the set?
at first, I thought it was like, just another easily forgotten combat mechanic, kind of like training or Coven or like Battalion. It was just like sort of forgotten. Didn't see much playing constructed. Doesn't show up in cubes. Doesn't even show up in master sets. Most of those, like, they're just sort of going to be forgotten. I think Enlist is a little better than that. I think it was a pretty clever include, especially with a wall sub theme and just having like regularly having 4 toughness creatures, uh, like O4s, just being able to attack through those, like having your 2-drop be able to attack through it. I think is a pretty neat, pretty clever way to make a combat mechanic that actually is relevant in the set.
For sure. I agree. Enlist looked pretty weak. It had so many restrictions that made it feel like you just lost a bit too much when using it. But it's just well placed in the format and actually adds a lot of game to the aggro decks.
Yeah, like it's really interesting, like being able to, and especially like if you can put a counter on the creature too, like I know I love putting a counter on the Cavalier, the 3 mana 2/2, or the Yavimaya Steel Crusher. Like being attacking, having your 2-drop or 3-drop attack as a 5/3. That's like pretty brutal. Like it's gonna either trade up or not be able to be blocked profitably. And these are common cards. Like these are not rares or even uncommons. So here's a 2/5. Not sure what's gonna do against these flyers here. This is an enlist creature that I have not been impressed with to date. We were talking about how much we were impressed by some of these 2 and 3 drop ones, but this 4-drop one hasn't hasn't been great from what I've seen, or just hasn't been played very much either.
I just think in the way green is positioned in Dominaria, it's more concentrated on the more domain aspect than it is about just trying to enlist a creature. The green uncommon one at least has like a sort of evasive ability, which makes it valuable. This one is just can be a big creature that attacks, and green already gets enough of that at like
Yeah,
higher drops.
like green already has a 4/4 for 4. Why do they need a 2/5 for 4 that you need to tap something to make it be a 4/5? Right? Like so very weird design considering what green is capable to do at common at the same mana cost. But when you are looking to cut down to 2 colors, you're just going to play all your stuff. So I could see that 2/5 being one of the next cuts once Chris takes a loss or 2 more. I could see that one hitting the sideboard shortly. So Caleb's still into racing here. Got him down to 5. Chris York needs to either gain life or answer a flyer. Otherwise, Caleb's just gonna
There's a lightning strike.
sail on to victory here. Yeah, so he can kill this lookout. All right.
You might even want to kill the 2/1 just to deny a card.
Yeah, we'll see what he decides. He might just say, "I want to prevent the most damage." Caleb does have a 7/7 trample in his hand. That's going to gain 5 life. So
Oh,
that's that's going to keep the game in his favor, I think. So fortunately for Chris, Caleb is looking at 2 lands. So this lookout was just all it saw was lands for miles and miles and miles on its trip to the graveyard. So we have the 7/7 here, which now Chris needs to answer both flyers in pretty short order, which without many other cards in his hand is going to be a difficult task here.
and with the Neshoba Brawler
Yeah.
draw, he
So
seemingly is just dead on board.
yeah. So that's going to be the game. Caleb, despite his deck being a bit wonky, just played a flyer into a flyer into a flyer and had 6 power flying coming at Chris York before Chris York knew what was happening. And Chris York did not find big creatures, just 2 power creatures. That's not going to hang with the flyers. So congratulations to Caleb on his victory, and we'll be back in a little bit for our next feature match.
Yeah, good games, Chris.